Okay, we've got a lot to go over with Project Crossover's gameplay. So much so that I will split this video into two parts. In this first one, we'll cover a few basic things, such as the genre and controls, before getting deeper into the mechanics and features in the next video. There's a lot to cover, and some of it is complicated, but I'll do my best to explain it as simply as possible. Though that does beg the question, what kind of game is Project Crossover anyway? Well, straight to the point, it's Kingdom Hearts. Let me explain. When I started working on Project Crossover, it wasn't meant to be a game at first. I planned for it to either be a book or an animated series, but I played around with the idea of turning it into a game several times. I considered making it a 3D fighting game or a beat-em-up, but because of how big my story was, I realized that those kind of genres would lead to a repetitive game. Sure, having different playable characters and bosses thrown in would have made things interesting as the player progressed, but it wasn't sitting right with me. I wanted to make a story with a grand scale, and have the gameplay match that story. This is part of why I settled on making the game similar to Kingdom Hearts. We'll get to the other reason later on. And real quick, another inspiration for Project Crossover's gameplay was Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which is a combination of the Dragon Ball fighting games and Kingdom Hearts. It is also really solid and you should play it. I won't go too in-depth on how Kakarot inspired Project Crossover, but in light of Akira Toriyama's passing, I thought it was important to mention its impact. Thank you, Toriyama. Rest in peace, sir. Of course, I'm sure there are some of you watching who have never played Kingdom Hearts and don't know what I'm talking about. So, let's go over how those games play and discuss the controls of Project Crossover. In Kingdom Hearts, you control your character with the left stick, and use the D-pad to select options on a command menu on the bottom left of the screen. This menu can be used in and out of combat, and each option can be selected by pressing up or down on the D-pad and pressing one of the face buttons. The other face buttons are used for jumping, blocking or dodging, and interacting with objects or enemies respectively. On the command menu, your four options include attack, magic, items, and summon or link. Attack is self-explanatory, and if you use the action buttons or the other face buttons in sequence with an attack, you can activate combos or special attacks. Magic brings up a sub-menu of spells that could be used for offense or defense. However, using a spell will deplete part of your magic meter, and if you use it all up, you'll either have to wait for it to refill or use an elixir to refill it quickly. This brings us to the items command, where you can pull up a sub-menu of items to heal yourself or your allies. You can also use items to revive your allies if they fall in battle, and some items can be given to party members to assist in battle as well. And lastly, the summon or link command will bring in a temporary ally to assist you in combat, usually at the cost of taking away your other party members for a short time. Also, by hitting the shoulder button, you can lock onto an enemy or pull up a quick select menu to speed up the menu selection process. With all of these abilities at your disposal, you fight enemies as they appear on the overworld without having to go to another area to do battle. And with how many options you have, there are many ways to take down enemies, but some may need more strategy. Sometimes a spell may be the best way to deal with an enemy, while others might need to be hit from behind. Regardless, the combat in Project Crossover, we haven't gotten there yet. Regardless, the combat in Kingdom Hearts is usually fast-paced, and in most cases, provides a good challenge as well. And that's what we will use as the basis for Project Crossover's gameplay. The button layout of Project Crossover would be the same as Kingdom Hearts. 4 face buttons with different actions, the D-pad would be used to select commands, there would be a lock-on feature and a couple of quick menus, and the left and right sticks would control the characters and the camera respectively. People who have played Kingdom Hearts before will find this control setup familiar and easy to settle into. New players might have to adjust to the control scheme, but hopefully that won't be too hard. Besides, there are some options to make the game easier to play, but we'll get there later. Of course, this won't just be a straight up copy of Kingdom Hearts' gameplay, as there are a few additions to the combat and exploration. For one thing, the command layout has a few differences. Instead of magic, we have special, as in special attack, and instead of summon or link, we have medallion. Special attacks essentially work the same way that magic does in Kingdom Hearts, and each set of special attacks are different for every character. Each character has 6 to 8 unique special attacks, with the amount depending on a factor we'll get to later. Also, there's a greater emphasis on special attacks providing stat boosts to yourself or other characters, sometimes at the detriment of another stat. For example, one of Mario's special attacks turns him into Metal Mario for a short time, which greatly increases his strength and defense, at the cost of reducing his speed and jumping. So, this ability would be good to use when enemies are close to Mario, but not when they're far away, unless you're trying to reduce the impact of projectiles. Also, much like in Kingdom Hearts, these special attacks can be upgraded like spells. Around half of each character's special attacks will be upgraded as they level up, but others will need to be upgraded on their skill tree. More on that later. These enhanced attacks can deal more damage or provide greater stat boosts, but the cost of your special meter will be greater, and there may be a great decrease in your stats as well. As another example, SpongeBob can give a Krabby Patty to himself or an ally to replenish some health. When the attack is upgraded, SpongeBob will give Krabby Patties to the entire party, not only replenishing health, but also increasing their attack power in exchange for decreasing their defense for a short time. Now, there is a great risk versus reward factor when using special attacks, but if the player wants to play it safe, then they can stick to the initial version of the attack instead of the upgraded one. While the core concept of the game is similar to Kingdom Hearts, the different set of special attacks for each character is one of the many adjustments to give the game its own identity. Now, before moving on to the medallion part of the command menu, let's talk about the party members for a minute. Your party will consist of 5 playable characters that you can switch to at any time, in and out of battle. Kingdom Hearts 3 introduced 5 character parties, but you only had control over Sora. Here, outside of certain story restrictions, you can make the party however you want. Maybe you want an ensemble of gaming giants. Perhaps a selection of cinema favorites. Do you want that Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon crossover of your dreams? Or maybe you just want Shrek to lead the manga characters. Whatever the case, and as long as you've unlocked them, you can make your ultimate dream team to fight bad guys and explore the world. Also, there are benefits to having certain characters in the party at the same time. For example, if your party has Rex and Ray in it, you'll gain a bonus for treasure obtained at the end of battle or during exploration, which ties into the fact that both characters are salvagers. This bonus will go up if other treasure hunting characters like Link or Scrooge are in the party as well. But there's one other thing to be aware of when picking out your party: subclasses. Each character falls under one of 7 subclasses, which include all-around, speed, power, brawler, ranged, magic, and combo. Going down the list, all-around characters are the easiest to use. Their stats are balanced and straightforward in design, making them perfect for beginners. Speed characters are the fastest in the game and can rack up damage on enemies quickly. However, they don't hit as hard as other classes, and their defense isn't perfect. Still, they can be useful for getting the enemy's health down quickly. In comparison, power characters excel in hitting hard, and have decent defense, but are the slowest class in the game. They tend to have a few ranged attacks, however, which makes up for their speed. That also happens to be one of the main differences between them and brawlers, who excel in close combat and have the highest amount of health of any class. They don't have many ranged attacks, but they have great power, defense, and decent speed. Think of them as an in-between of the speed and power classes, but without ranged abilities. Speaking of which, as their name implies, ranged characters are best used to attack enemies from afar. They do have a few up-close attacks just in case, but you'll primarily be using their ranged abilities to get rid of enemies. Ranged characters are the second fastest class, and have the second highest amount of special points in the game. The most amount of special points goes to magic characters, who primarily rely on their special attacks to do damage or provide support to other party members. As such, they're kind of like a support class, but they can still be decent fighters. Now, a catch with magic characters is that their regular attacks will use a tiny bit of their special meter, and when it runs out, their regular attacks will be weaker until the bar refills. For example, Natsu is a magic character who uses fire in his regular attacks, which can burn enemies if lucky. When the bar is depleted, however, he'll just have regular punches. Now again, magic characters do have the highest amount of special points in the game, but with how costly those abilities are, you'll need to use a bit more strategy with them and not just rush in like the other classes. A bit ironic that I just brought up Natsu, considering that he is a bit of a hothead when it comes to battle, but I digress. Lastly, we have combo classes, which are a combination between 2 classes. Usually the combination is between power or speed and brawler or magic. Natsu happens to be a brawler and magic type, so he excels in close combat and special attacks. As another example, Dudw is a brawler and speed type. So, besides being great at fighting up close, he's also fast and has moderately better defense than most speed types. Because combo characters have characteristics of two different classes, you'll be playing as a character who has the best of both worlds. And there we have our 7 classes, each with its strengths and weaknesses. The tutorial will give you a sizable amount of characters from each class to play with, so you can decide how you want to build your team. You can play it safe with the all-around characters, or make it interesting by mixing and matching classes in the same party. Also, the character's class would determine how many special attacks they have. Speed, Power, and Brawlers have 6, all-around and combo have 7, and ranged and magic have 8. And while not a separate class, there are a few characters whose moveset involves switching between one or more characters via a special attack. With characters like these, their stats will slightly vary depending on the character, but with a few exceptions, their class won't change. As an example, you can choose which Ninja Turtle you want to play from the character select menu, and switch between them in battle as a special attack. Leo has the best all-around stats, while Raph has the best strength, Mikey has the best speed, and Donnie has the best defense. In addition to these stat changes, they also have different special attacks and combo extenders, but they largely play similarly to one another. Only a select few characters have this swappability, but I thought it was worth mentioning here alongside the other classes. Anyway, the class system is certainly a big difference from how straightforward Kingdom Hearts is, but I think it will help add some diversity in gameplay. Giving each character different attacks and stats would have been good enough, but adding the class system adds a bit more diversity to how each character plays. That said, if you would rather play the game without subclasses, you absolutely can. There would be an option after the tutorial to play the game without subclasses, and the player could toggle between this option at any time. I know that might sound counterintuitive to the game design, however, I think it might be good for players who want a simpler experience. This would also have an impact on leveling up in the skill tree, but we'll get to those later. Now, regular and special attacks are not the only ways to get rid of enemies, as there are other options as well. Namely, there's a bar on top of the command menu that, when full, can be activated with the press of a button, bringing up a menu of 4 options: Chain Attack, Team Up Attack, Team Up Medallion, and Super Form. This bar can be filled up by performing well in combat. Things like dodging at the right time, pulling off combos, or defeating enemies will fill it up. And doing these things in succession will increase the rate at which the meter fills up. Going down the list of options, chain attacks are similar to the ones from Xenoblade Chronicles, where each character gets to use their special attacks one after the other before time runs out. And by doing combos, you can extend the number of rounds the chain attack goes on for. While in this mode, special attacks will still deplete the special meter, but the depletion will be 75% of the usual amount, and if attacks are pulled off in a successful combo, then the damage and special effects will increase by 5% per round. For context, a combo may mean inflicting status ailments on enemies one after another in one round, or even healing abilities will cause a combo to occur. If you pull off a round of stat buffs, it could be followed up by an attack phase, and then a status ailment phase before finishing up. And just so we're clear, the special meter used will be each character's meter rather than a shared one, so be sure to use an item to fill yours up before doing a chain attack. Anyway, a chain attack will end if the player runs out of time, if they don't pull off a successful chain combo, or if they hit the all-out attack button where the characters attack all at once. Regardless, the chain attacks will always end with the party's special meter completely depleted for a short time. So, the reward for doing damage to enemies is great, but you need to plan your attacks carefully or you won't get a satisfying bonus. On the bright side, status effects will remain in effect after the chain attack, including super buffed ones. Also, things like how much of the special meter is used and the damage multiplier can be upgraded on the skill tree, but again, we'll get there later. Then there are team up attacks, where 2 characters in your party, team up to deliver a powerful attack. This is mainly an offensive attack, but it can also have some status buffs. You can use this when both or only one of the team up characters are in the party. And there will even be a sub-menu during battle to let you decide which attack you want to use. However, the thing with team up attacks is that most of them are unlocked through side quests. A few are naturally unlocked during the main story, but you'll need to partake in some side content to unlock the rest. Typically, the team-up is between characters who make sense of being partnered up with each other. Mario and Sonic, Iron Man and Batman, Jimmy Neutron and Timmy Turner, Samurai Jack and Kubo, Captain Jack Sparrow and Rango, Ratchet and Jack, but others are based on characteristics, abilities, or loose connections that each character has with one another. For example, Jack Skellington and Sir Daniel Fortescue are team-up partners, not just because they're skeletons, but also because Sir Daniel has served under loyalty and Jack is the Pumpkin King. In other words, Sir Daniel is serving under royalty, but it's not Gallowmere he's serving. I mean, ultimately in the story he wants to save Gallowmere, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Moving on, we have super forms. This is where the character you're playing as unleashes their ultimate form and can use all of their special attacks without worrying about a meter. They'll also have their stats increased and be able to pull off a super special attack, which is pretty much a one-hit KO for most enemies, and a big damage dealer to bosses. Also, during this time, the character's theme music will play, so you can rip through your enemies with a triumphant song playing to cheer you on. However, during this form, your other allies will disappear from the battle until the form finishes. Additionally, this ability isn't unlocked until late in the game, so you'll have plenty of time to understand the combat before you can start ripping through enemies with Ultimate Form Sora. These attacks are all possible thanks to the meter above the command menu, but the biggest downside to them is that you can only use an ability from this meter once per battle, and even then, some options have a battle cooldown before you can use them again. So, if you use the chain attack in a fight, you can't access the menu again until the next fight. And even during the next fight, you won't have access to the chain attack until the fight after. This might sound harsh, but I don't want to make the game too easy. Yeah, you have all these methods for taking out enemies, but I'm not going to let you spam them until you win. That would make the game boring. Knowing when to use an attack and taking full advantage of your team's strengths is a major focus of Project Crossover's combat, and I hope that it'll be a fun system in execution. But there's one more thing about the combat that I've held off from talking about. Medallions. These magical items contain the souls of many beloved characters, including the allies of our heroes and other entertainment icons. Similar to spirits from Smash Ultimate, you can equip these medallions to your characters, and they come in 3 types: attack, assist, and accessory. All 3 of these medallions can be leveled up and have their effects increased, or even add new abilities altogether. The leveling system is dependent on the physical status of the medallion, with the weakest status being Rusty. Then it becomes Bronze, then Silver, Gold, and finally, Platinum. You can summon attack and assist medallions on the command menu, and depending on their type, they'll take up a certain amount of the medallion meter located near the party's health. Unlike the health and special meters, which are specific to each character, the medallion meter is shared across the whole party, which limits the number of uses you have during battle. Going through each type, attack medallions will summon a character to assist you in battle, and will behave like a 6th party member. They can be helpful for extra support when low on special points, or when enemies are tough to deal with. So if you need a little extra help in battle, you can call in the Incredible Hulk to take out a ton of weaker enemies. Or if you need some extra support, you can summon Wendy, who will provide stat boosts and healing to your party in addition to fighting. Leveling up these medallions will boost their stats and give them new moves to use in battle. Also, going back to that bar above the command menu, there was one option I skipped over: Team Up Medallion. This is an ability where one of the characters in your party will team up with a medallion character to fight enemies. These team-up attacks will be similar to the summons from Kingdom Hearts, in that you'll temporarily have new abilities to use in combat. Most of these team-ups are between characters from the same franchise, and a few of them will require multiple medallions to pull it off. Mario and Luigi is a team-up that only requires Mario, a playable character, and Luigi, an attack medallion. But then you have Sonic, who teams up with Tails and Knuckles, who are both attack medallions. Other team-ups may happen between characters from different universes too, such as Sir Daniel Fortescue teaming up with Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins. Whatever the case, you'll use the team-up partner's new abilities to take out enemies before ending the attack with a powerful finisher. Much like the super attacks, there will be an in-between battle cooldown before using one of these abilities again, and the medallion meter will be completely drained once the attack is finished. Assist medallions will come in for a short time to provide a stat boost to you or an ailment to your enemies. For example, Bubs from Homestar Runner is an assist medallion. When you summon him regularly, he'll he'll appear in his concession stand and throw out healing items for you and your party. By leveling him up, his concession stand will instead fall from the sky when you initially summon him, which can do damage and knock back any enemies nearby. His healing items will also be better, but he also has a chance of throwing out an item that could damage you or your enemies. Lastly, accessory medallions are equipment that you can add to each of your characters. These medallions can provide stat boosts to your character with a greater boost depending on which franchise they come from, or what they provide. For example, Dustin from Stranger Things will provide a boost to range attacks, which is a reference to the Artificer class he uses in D&D. If equipped with 11, the playable character from Stranger Things, this effect will become stronger. However, if equipped to Ratchet & Clank, a character who primarily fights with ranged weapons, then the boost will be strong with them as well. There's another contributor to the stat boost provided by medallions, and that's the gems that you can equip to the medallion. Each accessory medallion has gem slots on it that can increase the effect of the medallion, or add additional ones. Gems can be bought at shops, but particularly rare and powerful ones will be made through crafting. By finding items in chests, or by defeating enemies, you'll be rewarded with items you can use to craft gems for the medallions. Sometimes, gems you already have can be used to create stronger ones too, but some effects may be removed or weakened as a result. Also, the number of slots will vary on the medallion ranking. The minimum number of slots is 1 and the maximum is 5. But there will be times when a platinum medallion only has 2 or 3 slots, especially if they offer an especially beneficial boost. I used especially twice in the same sentence, what is wrong with me? Sometimes gems may take up more than 1 slot too, so try to be aware of that when filling out your medallions. Now, because they don't gain new abilities or effects as they level up, gems are exclusive to accessory medallions, so you won't be able to equip them to attack or assist characters. Also, for every medallion, there's a limit to how many each character can hold at a time. When you start the game, your character can only hold 1 attack medallion, 1 assist medallion, and 3 accessory medallions. This limit can be expanded to have the character hold 3 attack medallions, 4 assist medallions, and 6 accessory medallions. But there are a couple of catches. First of all, there aren't exactly duplicate medallions in the game, so if you give Mario a Funky Kong medallion, then no one else can have Funky as part of their loadout. There's a Link medallion that can let more than one character share one medallion, but it comes at the expense of the effect or power being weaker than usual. This can be changed through leveling up, but it's the closest thing to sharing medallions between party members. Speaking of which, your medallion loadout is either exclusive to whichever characters you set it to, or the default party setup. By that I mean, you can make 5 medallion presets and have them default to whatever characters are in the party. So if you have a preset loadout for the first member of your party, then that loadout will stay the same regardless of which character you change it to. If Link is the first character in your party, but you change him to Aloy, then she'll have the same loadout as him. This is only if you want to keep your medallion loadout a specific way for all 5 characters in the party. Otherwise, you can give each character their own medallion loadout. Considering the size of the roster, which we'll go over in another video, and the number of medallions in the game, there should be enough to give each character a custom loadout. But it would also be time consuming, which is why there are presets in the first place. Also, there would be an option to reset each character's medallion loadout if you would like to start them over. There's one more drawback to medallions, and that brings us back to the meter. Using attack or assist medallions is restricted by whichever characters you're playing as, and you can't use another medallion until the current one goes away. So let's say that Iron Man has a Rivet medallion, and Batman has a Miss Beans medallion. If you're playing as Iron Man, and you use the Rivet medallion, you can't switch over to Batman and summon Miss Beans. Also, AI partners can't use medallions alone, so you'll need to switch to them to access their loadout. Only after Rivet has gone away can you switch over to Batman and use the Miss Beans medallion, but that will also depend on how much of the medallion meter is left. The amount depleted from the medallion meter depends on the type and level of each one. So a golden attack medallion will deplete more of the meter than a golden assist medallion. Speaking of which, the fastest way to replenish a medallion meter is using an item, but it will also refill automatically after a battle has concluded, so you don't always have to rely on items. And that is the medallion system. It sounds like a lot, but I think in practice it'll be easy to understand. At least I hope so. Also, the medallions are where some surprise cameo characters will appear. I'm trying to have Project Crossover include as many characters as possible, but there are many popular franchises that I'm not super familiar with. While there are many characters that I want to personally include in the game, I also want to cater to those who may have different tastes from me. I love how Smash Bros. Includes lesser known characters as assist trophies or spirits, as a way to make the game feel like a true celebration of both Nintendo's history and gaming as a whole. Similarly, medallions are another way to include popular characters in the game in some form or another. And much like Smash Bros., just because a character is a medallion, that doesn't write them off from being DLC down the line. But that's for another day. Now, let's move on from the medallion system and talk about leveling up. After a battle, you'll earn experience points that'll level up your characters, with a higher amount of experience depending on how strong an enemy is and how you perform in battle. Depending on whether the class system is in effect or not, the experience points will either go to each character individually or to your party as a whole. Having the class system on will result in each character leveling up independently, while having it off will result in the entire party leveling up. This also affects the skill tree, which is divided into 8 branches with classes. 7 of the branches correspond to each class, with the last one revolving around general things for the party, like how fast you can charge the super meter or how many medallions you can use in a fight. Also, characters who you've unlocked but aren't in the party will still level up, but not as quickly as characters who are in the party. This amount can be increased on the general skill tree. Some of the skill tree effects will still be the same with classes turned off, but the class-specific boosts will be generalized to every character, such as a boost to the power character's defense becoming a boost to everyone's defense. Usually, generalized stat boosts won't be as powerful as class-specific boosts, so bear that in mind. Benefits are unlocked by using skill points, which you gain from completing quests, important and otherwise, or by defeating strong enemies. Each character also has their own skill tree regardless of whether the class system is turned on or off, and their skill points are unlocked by leveling up or by completing side quests specific to each character. Character-specific skill trees are where some of those upgraded special moves can be unlocked, as well as combo extenders, strengthening pre-existing special attacks, and other stat boosts. Character-specific skill points won't be unlocked through leveling up if the class system is off, but the amount of skill points you get from other methods will be higher when the system is on. This is like the second to last page. We're almost there. On the topic of leveling up, each character has the following stats. HP is the amount of health your character has, while SP is how many special points they have. Attack relates to the strength of their attacks. Defense relates to how much damage they'll receive from physical attacks. Speed relates to how fast the character is, as well as their jump and dodge speed. Special resistance relates to how resistant your character is to special attacks and status effects. Knockback relates to how far enemy attacks will send you and vice versa. Finally, status effects relate to how powerful and how likely a status effect will impact an enemy and even yourself. With classes on, each character will have preset stats that relate to their character class, but they'll be more generalized with classes off. Oh, we've gone over a lot, haven't we? And this is just the general idea of the combat and leveling up. We still need to go over how battles work, the type of enemies you'll be fighting, exploration, side quests, and how you get medallions in the first place. There's a lot more to go over, but I think I've talked your ear off for now. In the next video, I'll discuss these things in more detail, but I may have to do another video in case I don't get to everything. Hopefully not, but we'll see in the future. So, thank you guys for watching. Please let me know what you think about the gameplay in the comments, and... Wait, did I casually reveal that Timmy Turner is a playable character earlier? Typically, the team-up is between characters who make sense of being partnered up with each other. Mario and Sonic, Iron Man and Batman, Jimmy Neutron and Timmy Turner. I guess I did. Oh, and while I'm here, I would just like to say that if Project Crossover was an actual game, Butch Hartman would not be paid a cent for his characters being included. And neither would J.K. Rowling for Harry Potter. and any other controversial creators who are having their characters featured in this game. That might sound unfair, and they might have created beloved universes, but that doesn't give them the right to be terrible people. Anyway, that's the end of the video, for real, so have a wonderful day, everyone. Goodbye for now. Now, I'm the squeaky voice kid from The Simpsons. Oh, I'm gonna get fired if I don't finish this report by Sunday. Oh wait, today is Sunday. I am so fired. Oh. I'm definitely putting that at the end of the video.